Hello everyone, my name is Andrew and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you the power of the JetAppointment plugin when building a website that offers services from multiple providers. To get this working, you'll need JetEngine and JetAppointment. Those are the must-haves. I'll also be using JetTheme Core to build single post pages, JetFormBuilder for forms that can be customized in any way, and JetPopup to integrate JetFormBuilder forms right into the layout. But the main spotlight today is JetAppointment. What makes it useful is how it automates the appointment setup process, including tying in provider and service data, generating time slots, and syncing everything together smoothly. You'll see what I mean in a moment as I walk you through how to set up provider profiles, connect services, and then configure after submit actions. Fun fact, the Zoom support calls you can schedule on the Crocoblock website, that's all powered by this very plugin. However, we didn't always use JetAppointment for our support services. In fact, our team originally relied on a completely different booking solution. But over time, we developed JetAppointment into the ideal tool, one that actually works for us and for you. Here's what makes JetAppointment stand out. Full control over your booking system's design and functionality, seamless Zoom integration with automatic meeting generation, built-in zone support to help reduce missed appointments, highly flexible custom workflows triggered after form submission, secure public links for clients to confirm or cancel appointments without logging in, options to limit the number of bookings per user or set a required minimum. So buckle up my friends and let's dive in. For today's example, I'll be building an appointment system for a medical services website, specifically based on the MedCenter template by Crocoblock. We won't attempt to copy the whole site, but just enough to show you the streamlined flow that JetAppointment enables, especially when paired with the rest of the Croco tools. The site offers medical services that are essentially appointments provided by doctors who are listed as individual providers. There are 3 types of forms used on the site, and all of them ultimately let the user choose a service, a provider, and a time slot. The difference between them lies in how many steps the user goes through depending on which page they're on. Home 1 appears on the home page in the full version form. The user starts by selecting a service. Based on that, the form then filters the list of available doctors who provide that service. Finally, the user picks an available time slot and reserves it. The second form can be accessed from a service single page. Here we already know which service the user is viewing, so the form skips that step. It starts by letting the user pick a doctor who offers that specific service, then choose a time slot. And Form 3 opens up after a button is clicked on doctor single pages. Since we came from a doctor profile, the provider is already set there. So depending on where the form appears, Crocoblock tools adapt appointment functionality to reduce unnecessary steps, creating a smoother booking experience for the user. Okay, let's finally get to building the site. I've already started putting it together. The homepage includes a few basic sections like the hero, an About Us section, and a button that opens a pop-up where the full-size form will go. I've also created 2 pages that will contain our forms with a reduced number of steps. Their designs are identical and users will be able to access them directly from the single pages for services or providers. By the way, feel free to use the timestamps to skip ahead to JetAppointment settings if you're comfortable with things like CPT setup, listings, and single-page templates, for which I'll give a brief overview. If you need more details on any step, we'll likely have tutorial for it in our channel. As I mentioned earlier, services and doctors will be set up as custom post types. First off, I'm going to create a custom post type for doctors. So JetEngine, post types, add new. Next, we'll decide what kind of information we might need for each doctor by adding various meta fields. For example, in listings or on a doctor's single page, you might want to display their image, so I'm adding a media type field. For years of experience, I'm using a number field. For things like field of expertise and about information, I'm using text and text area fields. And finally, for specialization, I'm using a repeater field. That way, each doctor can have a custom number of specializations listed individually. Next, I'm going to create a custom post type for services, which, as you remember, are the actual items users will be booking through the system. This one is simpler. We'll stick to the essentials: title, image, and description. Before creating the actual post and filling in their information, let's first set up relations to connect services and providers. These will be essential when you create custom queries to display related providers on service pages and vice versa. To do this, go to JetEngine, Relations, and click the Add New button. Give the relation a name, set services as the parent object and doctors as the child object. Choose the many-to-many relation type and hit the Add Relation button. Now I'll go ahead and create the post for doctors and services with their basic information filled in. Once the doctor posts are created, I'll be able to establish relations with them while building the service posts. Some details specific to booking functionality, like prices or service duration, will be configured later using the JetAppointment plugin. Next, I'll decide how to display information from these post types by creating listings and single-page templates. Let's start with the doctors. I'm creating a listing template to display them in a grid on the homepage using dynamic image and dynamic field widgets. Each listing will be clickable, linking to its single page by enabling Make Listing Item Clickable and setting the source to permalink in the listing item section. I'll also create a more compact provider listing that will be used in a grid on the service single pages, and it will lead to the doctor's page too. And finally, we'll need individual single pages for each doctor. Since we're using Crocoblock tools, I'll create a single page template using Jet Theme Core to handle that. Let's open Theme Builder from the Crocoblock dashboard. You'll see a tree view of the site's elements, making it easy to choose and customize any part. This new interface replaces the older one, where you had to manually select templates through drop-down menus. Templates for single pages are outlined in blue, and since we haven't created any yet, you'll see their placeholders with a transparent background and dashed borders. I'll click the plus sign next to the doctor's single node to preview its structure, then select the body section and open it in Elementor to build the template. As with the listings, I'll use dynamic field and dynamic image widgets to pull in the doctor's info. I'll also use a dynamic repeater widget to show content from the repeater meta field, selecting the repeater group as the source and inserting the field name with a macro. And I'll apply styling to make everything look polished. We also need to add a button to the single page template that directs users to the form with the doctor already selected. Although the form isn't built yet, the page for it is already set up. The goal is to make this button not only lead users to that page but also pass along information indicating which doctor's page the user came from, so the form can automatically pre-select the provider. To do that, we'll use a stylized dynamic link widget. This widget includes a toggle for query arguments, and when activated, it generates a preset macro that adds the current post ID to the URL. Later, this ID will be used by the form to identify the appropriate service provider. As for the destination URL, paste it into the URL prefix field. Then, under Source, select something like Options without specifying any options field. This prevents the widget from pulling in any unrelated data. This setup will append the current post ID to the end of your custom URL and ensure the form receives the correct context. Now I'll build the templates for services. Just like with the doctors, we'll have a few different ways to present them on the front end. A main listing to showcase services, a minimal listing with just basic info to be displayed on related doctor pages, and a single page template for each individual service. On the service single page template, I'll also add a button using the dynamic link widget. This button will lead users to the page containing the form with the service already pre-selected. I will now place all the listings in their appropriate locations on the website. Starting with the homepage editor, I'll add a listing grid to show available services by linking it to the services listing. For now, I will limit it to 4 visible listings but enable a Load More button, assigning its element ID to trigger loading additional services on click. I'll use the same approach to display the doctor's listings on the homepage. In both cases, there's no need for a custom query since we're showing all posts of the selected post type. However, for a single service pages where I want to show only related doctors, and for doctor pages where I want to show only their related services, we'll create 2 custom queries. Go to JetEngine, Query Builder, and click Add New. Name your query, for example Services Query, and leave the query type set to Post Query. In the Post Query settings, open the Post and Page tab. Here we need to set the post in source. Click the Dynamic Text button next to the field, then Related Items option to reveal 3 drop-downs. In the first drop-down, select the relation we created earlier. In the second drop-down, choose Parent Object, since services were set as the parent in this relation. In the third one, select Current Object ID. Repeat the same process to create a doctor's query, but this time choose Child Object instead of Parent, since doctors are the related children of the services in the relation we defined. Now let's move on to editing the single-page templates. On the Doctor single-page template, insert a grid using the Reduce Services listing as the source. Initially, the grid will show all services. To filter only the related ones, go to the Custom Query tab within the Content settings and select the services query you just created. On the Services single-page template, insert the doctors listing and apply the doctors query to only show related doctors. The listings are in place now. What's still missing is the forms and the booking functionality. Once the JetAppointment plugin is activated, setting it up is surprisingly straightforward. You can launch the wizard in 2 ways. Hover over appointments in the WordPress dashboard and click the setup, or go to Jet Plugins, Jet Appointments, scroll to the bottom and click the setup label here. Above the setup link, you'll find additional configuration options. They'll allow you to review and fine-tune appointment settings, but we'll get back to them later. Let's now walk through the setup process. Step 1 is where you define the services your website offers and the providers, in our case doctors. In the first dropdown, select the services post type. Enable the providers toggle. For providers, choose the doctor's post type. Click Next. In the second step, you'll review the default appointment table structure that JetAppointment will generate. This table stores the data submitted from appointment forms. JetAppointment automatically includes required fields like date, time, service, provider. You can also add custom columns like phone number and username by clicking the New Database column button. Once you're happy with the table structure, click Next. Now we'll configure global booking schedule settings and structure for our medical services website. We're going to leave many of the default settings as they are. For example, time format stays unchanged. We'll use time slots as the scheduling method. Other options are allowing user to pick time or let the user book recurrent appointments. Leave out slot duration at 30 minutes. We won't add buffer time before or after appointments, and there's no need to enable log time. We could also enable multi-booking, allowing customers to book more than one slot at a time or define minimum number of bookings. Scrolling down, we'll find a section for work hours, days off, and working days. The default work hours already cover a typical Monday-Friday schedule with weekends left empty. One helpful detail: you can set multiple working hours per day. For example, if there's a break in the middle of the day, simply adjust the morning hours, then click Add to define a second working period for the afternoon. So, the work hours settings define your regular weekly schedule. These hours repeat every week and apply globally unless overridden. Next, you'll set up days off. These are specific dates like holidays when bookings should be blocked. Days off override the regular weekly schedule. You can decide whether to still allow custom availability for a specific service or provider, or the availability changes on these days cannot be changed for individual services and providers. After that, we can add working days. You have 2 options here: override all schedule with new days, so any days not selected will be unavailable for booking. Override selected days only. This keeps the global recurring schedule intact, but allows you to create exceptions for specific dates with custom rules. Step 4 includes a few settings. It lets you enable WooCommerce integration for immediate appointment payments. We won't cover it here, but check out our channel for detailed WooCommerce tutorials. The next options allow generating appointment booking forms. You'll see 2 toggle options. Create a single service form. This will generate a form for individual service pages where the user doesn't need to select a service. Second toggle to create a universal form, which allows users to select both a service and a provider, and is the one we'll use on the homepage. In the Form Creation tool drop-down, select JetFormBuilder as the plugin used to create the forms. Once everything is configured, click Finish. The next screen summarizes what you've created and includes links to manage services, providers, and booking forms. Start by going to the Post section and opening the services one by one. You'll notice that each service now has new appointment-related settings. The first thing to set is the price. By default, this will be the price per slot, as defined in the global options during setup. The schedule for each service allows the global settings unless you enable the Use Custom Schedule toggle. When that's turned on, you'll be able to define custom slot timing, work hours, and specific days off or working days unless you previously logged these from changing. You'll also see a field to add related providers in the right panel. This is important to do because while we've already set up relations between specific services and providers when creating posts, those were for creating queries that display related posts on a single service or provider pages. However, JetAppointment needs to know which providers relate to which services for its own internal relations. Now I'll go through each service post, link it to the right provider using this appointment relation field, and set the price, leaving the schedule as is. Now let's take a quick look at what's new in the provider's post type. The relation to services is already set thanks to the updates we made in the services posts. For pricing, I'm keeping the default inherit service price option, so the cost will depend on this selected service, not the provider. Same with the schedule, no custom settings here either. So no further changes are necessary for provider's CPT. Alright, now that the wizard has generated two booking forms, one for a static page and one for single service pages, it's time to review them, make any needed adjustments, and place them on the site. We'll also create a third form manually for single provider pages. Let's start with the static page booking form. Upon reviewing the form, we can see it includes several key blocks: service selection, provider selection, and a date picker. The last two are powered by the JetAppointment specific blocks. The form also has a hidden field to capture the current post ID, a user email field, and a submit button. I'm planning to turn it into a multi-step form and add a few more fields to collect additional users' details. The service selection block can be switched from a drop-down to a radio field, so users can see all available options at once. By default, it pulls values from the titles of the service's post type. To customize how this field looks, we can turn on the Use Custom Template toggle. This lets us replace the standard radio buttons with a more appropriate design. Let's quickly create a new listing for this. Instead of showing only the service title, we'll include the price too, since that data is now stored in a meta field from the JetAppointment Setup. To display it dynamically, use the Dynamic Field widget and set the meta field name to this value. You can also use this same field name for showing dynamic data on services single pages. To get more styling control over the field label, I'm using a separate heading widget instead of the default label. The service selector itself should be set as required. Just above it in the setting panel, you'll notice a double arrow button. This enables auto transition to the next form step once a selection is made. For that to work, we need to split the form into steps, so I'll insert a form page break block right after this field and disable the Enable Next button toggle in its settings. Next, let's look at the Appointment Provider field. Being an appointment-specific block, its settings are a bit different from the service selector. The source for its options is set in the block settings panel on the right. By default, it pulls provider IDs based on the selected service, using that field's name as the reference. We'll enable the custom template option here too and create a new listing for doctors that show their portrait and name. As with the service field, also enable the switch page on change option to allow automatic step transition after selection. This time, before adding another form page break, I'll also add previous page block. The next field to check is the appointment date block. It lets users pick a date and time based on the global availability settings or custom schedules if those are set for the service or provider. Once a selection is made, it also generates combined appointment details, which we'll explore later. In the block settings on the right, you'll see that it pulls service and provider info from the related form fields. No changes are needed here. After this field, I'll insert the next page and previous page navigation blocks followed by another form page break. The next step of the form will collect user information. I'll insert fields for username and phone number and keep the existing email block here. Again, I'll add the navigation buttons and another form page break block. That was the last form page requiring input from the user. Now I want to display a summary of the appointment and the price before asking the user to confirm the form submission. I'll show the appointment summary using a custom HTML block. The HTML code will include JetFormBuilder tags that dynamically display the submitted information from several fields. The price will be displayed in a calculated field. I'll use a macro to show the price linked to the service selected in the appointment date field. I'll also add a prefix with the word total and a $sign to format the output. And that's almost it for this form. I'll just add a final previous step button at the end and apply some stylization using JetStyle Manager. And let's check the form's post-submit actions. By default, the insert appointment action is already enabled, and for this site, that's likely all we need. Since advanced workflows can be set globally in JetAppointment settings, it's more efficient to handle them there, especially if all forms follow the same logic. We'll revisit workflows later in the tutorial. Let's click Edit on the Insert Appointment action to see what it does. A pop-up shows the list of appointment fields. Some values like Service ID and Provider ID are required, so the form must include matching fields or submission will fail. You'll also see the current database columns we created earlier, like username and phone number, which can be mapped to the form fields. These, along with any other fields you add, can later be used for things like emails or webhooks. The next form to adjust is the Single Service Booking form. Since it's placed on a specific service's single page, it doesn't need a service selector. The service is already known from the page context. This value should also be used to filter and display only the related providers instead of showing all available ones. To make this work for our site, we'll need to tweak a few settings in the form's configuration. Right now, the Select Provider block gets the service value from the current post ID. Since this form will be placed on a different page with a special URL that includes the post ID of the service page the user came from, we need to connect the field to that URL value instead. For this, adjust the hidden field at the top to use the URL query variable option instead of current post ID, and enter the query variable key that holds the service ID. Then make sure the provider field sources service ID from this hidden field. Next, update the appointment date field to pull data from the correct form fields. Then insert page breaks and navigation buttons, add contact fields, include a summary block if needed, and adjust the styling. Lastly, map form fields to the appointment table data. And now let's move on to creating the final form, the one users see after visiting a doctor's single page. I'll start by duplicating a single page form we already have. In this new version, the hidden field will retain its existing functionality, pulling the value from the URL query variable. Instead of the provider field, we need a service selector. I'll add a select field and set its source to the service's post type. And you know what? No extra filtering is needed. As long as the appointment date block is connected to the hidden field, which holds the doctor post ID, and this service field, it will automatically show only services related to that doctor. That's pretty amazing. I'll continue by styling the form and configuring the post-submit action as we did earlier. Then I'll place the forms where they belong. The static form goes in a pop-up linked to a homepage button, and the two simplified forms will be embedded on the pages linked from the service and doctor single pages. Before we jump to the front end, let's quickly revisit the appointment settings to see what other tools can be used to fine-tune the booking functionality. Other than the Setup Wizard, there are 8 tabs here for customizing your appointment system. Many of these repeat what we configured during setup, so if you ever need to adjust something, you can just update it here, no need to rerun the wizard. Plus, you get extra features not covered in the initial setup, like custom labels for days and months, calendar layout options, time zone picker, and we'll add that now, and advanced availability settings across providers or services. You can also start integrating Zoom from here and turn your services into live consultations. If that's your goal, check out our full Zoom integration guide on the channel. Finally, the workflow tabs allow you to set up actions that go with the appointment submissions. These actions can be triggered by events like appointment creation or status changes, and they can run either immediately or a specific number of days before the scheduled appointment. Available actions include sending an email, calling a webhook, and if Zoom integration is enabled, creating a Zoom meeting. The Call a Webhook action lets you connect with external apps or services like CRMs, Google Sheets, or calendars by simply pasting in the service's URL. If you want to dive deeper into integrations, check out our video on Zapier integration. As for the Send Email action, you've got your typical email fields, and thanks to macros, you can pull in any info related to the appointment, service, or provider. For instance, you can set up emails to be sent directly to the provider if their meta field holds a valid email. In the email body, you can include macros for users' local time and date, or one-click confirmation and cancellation links. You also have access to values from the custom database columns you created earlier. On top of that, you can fully style the email using HTML and inline CSS. Basically, JetAppointment emails are as functional as they come. And if you want more use cases, go ahead and check the plugin's Help Center documentation. Let's now go to the website as users see it and try filling out the forms. As planned, the homepage features a list of services and doctors. When we click on any listing, we land on a single page for that specific doctor or service. These single pages also display related posts from the corresponding CPTs. So the navigation we set up earlier using listing grids, single page templates, and custom queries is working as intended. When we click the Make an Appointment button on single pages, we're taken to a separate page with the form, whereas on the home page the form opens in a pop-up. Let's start by filling out this static page form. First, we choose the service, and thanks to the pre-built template, we see its title and price. Clicking the service takes us to the next form page with a list of doctors offering that service, again displaying using a template, this time including a provider's portrait. On the next page, we pick a date, which then reveals available time slots and a separate drop-down for selecting a time zone. Once those are set, appointment details appear immediately. This is a built-in feature of the appointment date widget, which auto-generates and displays that information. The navigation buttons become active here, so we click Next to proceed. The following page contains required contact detail fields, and after filling those out, we land on the final page with an appointment summary and a confirmation button. Clicking that button shows us the form submission confirmation message. Now we'll go to a service single page and from there to the appointment page to try out the single service form. This time the first thing we choose is the doctor. Then we proceed to selecting the time slot, filling in the content details, and we can see that the appointment summary correctly reflects the service, matching the one from the page we came from. Next, we try the single provider form. Now, when checking the appointments on the backend, we see 3 items added. Clicking on them shows us all appointment details, including the generated confirmation and cancellation URLs. These links can be sent in emails and are fully functional, instantly changing the appointment status when used. As you've seen, JetAppointment can handle even complex booking setups, especially when combined with JetEngine CPTs and dynamic connections, plus JetFormBuilder for advanced multi-step forms. Whether you add cash-out flows to go fully commercial or integrate Zoom to deliver the best custom services like we do on our site, you won't be disappointed with Crocoblock. That's all for now. Hit the like button if this video was helpful, drop your questions and thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you next time!